Hello, 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 my loves. Happy Monday, and welcome to another edition of the weekly Astro Forecast live here in the Astro Room on YouTube. So, of course, I am your host and your favorite astrologer, Mel of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. So, if this is our first time meeting, welcome. And as always, if you are returning, welcome back. So, this channel is everything astrology, spirituality, and manifestation. So, if those are the things you like, if those are the things you love, or if those are the things you want to learn more about, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell so you'll always be notified when I come out with new content. All right, my love. So this is going to be the weekly astro forecast for the week of May 20th through 26th, 2024. All right. I have to say that of all the weeks of May, this is probably one of the most dynamic weeks. We've got quite a few planets changing signs, plus we've got a full moon. So the very first thing that I want you to do is break out your natal chart if you haven't already, if you don't have it memorized, and I want you to look at where Gemini is, because that is where everything is going to be popping off this week and for the next couple of weeks. All right, so get comfortable with that mixy Gemini energy. All right, y'all already know how I feel about that. But before I get into all of the beautiful details regarding the astrology for this week, of course, housekeeping and announcements. So if you are joining me here on the live this evening, thank you so much for tuning in. I sincerely appreciate you. Please say hi on your way in and hit that like button as well. It really helps the channel out. It lets the algorithm know that not only do you like this content, but you find it valuable, so that it will push it out to other people who feel the same way. All right, so it's definitely helpful. And if you are joining me on the replay, I appreciate you just as much. Hopefully you get what you are looking for in this broadcast. And if that is so, definitely hit that like button, subscribe button, and notification bell if you haven't already. All right, so let's say that you want to know what your horoscope is, right? But maybe you don't know where to look, or what you're finding online just isn't really working for you. Like maybe it doesn't resonate. If that is the case, and if that is you, then you will definitely want to sign up to my text service, where you will get your weekly horoscope texted to you every Monday. So if you are interested in that, you will text the word ZODIAC to the number 855-826-5544. That information will be in the description box below in case you missed it. Short, sweet, to the point. People really like it. Plus, you get some freebies, some discounts. It's definitely worth your while. All right, so definitely check that out. All right. And of course, if you are new to astrology, okay, and you have no idea what's going on, right? It's a lot of jargon. It's a lot of you have no idea. Or maybe you've delved into astrology. Maybe you've kind of dipped your toe in the astrology pool, but you're like, whoa, this is a lot. It's overwhelming. Don't worry, I got you covered. So I created this thing called the Astrology Basics Cheat Sheet, which is essentially the quick and dirty on everything you need to know to start studying and understanding astrology, namely the 4 pillars of astrology, which are the planets, the houses, the zodiac signs, and the aspects. So it's an 11-page PDF document that gives you a quick summary on what all of this is, so that you can not only start studying, but you can commit it to memory. Because regardless of what anyone says or doesn't say, astrology is indeed a science. And like any science, it requires a good deal of study. So to help you get started, I created this cheat sheet. If you are interested, the link will be in the description box below. All you have to do is drop your email address and you will be good to go. All right. So maybe you want a little more, okay? And if that is the case, then you should consider becoming a roommate, which means that you will be a channel member. And as a channel member, you get some amazing perks, including exclusive member-only videos, early access to videos, and you get 20% off all of my products and services for good, for life, all the time. All right. So it's definitely worth your while. If you are interested, the link is in the description box below. So not only do you get a whole bunch of perks, but most importantly, you help support the channel. You not only help us keep going, but you help us grow as well. So definitely consider that. Again, link is in the description box below. All right. So, yeah. This is a week that is chock full of astrological activity. There's a lot going on in the sky this week. And like I said before, it's all going down in the sign of Gemini. So Happy Gemini season. Gemini season officially begins today. And I don't know about you, but Gemini season is always really interesting. For me, ever since I was young, I've always been surrounded by Geminis. Like I have Geminis in my family. All of my best friends growing up were Gemini. So I was always inundated with Gemini energy. So by the time we got to May, but specifically June, because all the Geminis I know have June birthdays. It was like birthday this, birthday that, this, that, and the third. And you know that Gemini energy, it is like all over the place. It's mixy. It's just like doing the most. And that is what we have to look forward to for the next 4 weeks. It's definitely not as bad as it sounds. A lot. So every time the sun changes signs, so every time we go into a new zodiacal season, it's like we are unlocking a different facet of energy, right? We're unlocking a different tool. It's like we're unlocking a different, like, in a video game where you have all of these different like weapons or tools that you can use to get you through the level. Like that's what happens every time the sun changes signs. And so we start off the zodiacal year with Aries, and that's fire, right? So you've got fire to create things. Then we get into Taurus season, and it's like you get a hammer and saw, right? So you can start building that foundation. And then when we get to Gemini season, we've got books and the internet because it is all about our mental activities. Apart from being mixy, and please forgive me if I overuse that word, but that's just the best word to describe Gemini energy. We have the ability to learn new things. Gemini is all about ideas. It's about communication. It's about following your curiosities, indulging in your curiosities, if you will. Okay. So it's a mental masculine. Well, actually, I take that back. Gemini is known as a neutral sign. So it's neither masculine nor feminine. It's more androgynous, but that's kind of splitting hairs right now. But Gemini is sort of extroverted. It's very social energy. It's all about learning, and it's all about doing a lot. It's all about doing the most, okay? And so this is, I don't know if you can feel it, but there has been a difference between yesterday and today. It's almost like, how when you are on an escalator, like let's say you're on the up escalator, and you're riding along, and then you get to the end and you kind of stumble. It kind of like pushes you off. Like that's kind of what it feels like. It's like we're being pushed onto this really fast-paced, very zippy, multitasky kind of energy. So this is exactly what we are dealing with. And not just that, we've got 2 planets who are also going to be going into Gemini this week as well. So we're just coming off of this heavy Taurus energy. And what I mean by heavy is that we've had 5 planets in the sign of Taurus for the last, I want to say like 2 weeks or so, right? So remember, I kept saying wherever Taurus is in your natal chart, that's where you're going to be experiencing this energy. So Taurus is very grounded. It's very stable. It stays put. It fixes things. Let me not say fixes things. Taurus is all about building things, foundation. It's very earthy, right? It's very salt of the earth. So the energy can feel a little stagnant during Taurus season. And with 5 planets having been in Taurus, if you feel like you haven't necessarily been moving, right? Especially maybe during Aries season, you had all of these passions, all of this drive and motivation. And now we've gotten to Taurus season with all these planets in the sign of Taurus. It's like, all right, things are kind of stuck in the mud a little bit, right? Gemini is like, fuck that shit. We're about to mix things up. We're about to get going. It's like Gemini is the busy bee of the zodiac. It flits from flower to flower to flower, gaining knowledge, talking to people, things of that nature. So rest assured that as planets move out of Taurus and into Gemini, we're going to feel this energy, but it's not energy of like doing. Right? Gemini is an air sign. It's not like a fire sign that's really concerned with action. Gemini is mental. But remember, or if you don't know, let me enlighten you. Everything begins in the mind first. So on the one hand, Gemini allows us the ability to create a new story. to craft a new story, to tell a new narrative, to gain information from all of this socializing and learning that we are doing and use that to tell a new story, right? That's the beauty of Gemini season. The flip side of that coin is that if you don't have your mind under control, it's not even your monkey mind that's going to be firing on all cylinders. There's going to be a whole circus in there doing backflips and and juggling and walking on the tightrope, right? Your Gemini season has the propensity to have your minds all over the place. While it is multitasky, it is unfocused. It tends to be a little scattered, okay? And again, that shift in energy, we go from that groundedness of Taurus to this sort of mental scattering that is Gemini. So you really have to be present, okay? That is the key to Gemini season, is being present, because your thoughts can be like a freight train just running away. Full steam ahead all the way, right? You can become easily distracted. You can spend a lot of time on things that don't necessarily push the needle. You can psych yourself out, especially if you don't have enough information about something. You can really shoot yourself in the foot with Gemini energy. And I don't say that as a way to make you scared about your thoughts. I'm saying this so that you understand the importance of being present and discerning. Discerning is going to be key, because again, you're going to have a little monkey with symbols in your brain having you think about shit that's irrelevant, that again doesn't push the needle, or that'll take you in a completely different direction than you intended to go. Okay, so it's really important that you stay present. And then we've got Venus and Jupiter moving into Gemini, which is just going to create this nice positive energy, but again, a lot, all right? And then to top that off, we've got a full moon in the sign that is opposite of Gemini, which is Sagittarius. And so Sagittarius is all about moving into a different stratosphere. It's all about expansion and growth. And with a full moon, this full moon is likely going to be larger than life, not to mention the other stuff we've got going on this week. So again, chock full of stuff, but you should know by now that I will break this all down for you step by step. So without further ado, let's jump right in, all right? So we start off with the highlights. So first, we have what I like to call mental marathons, and this is the sun in Gemini, all right? Thoughts and ideas, communication and socializing, learning and transactions. Again, Gemini is multitasky, it's mixy, it's also very social and chatty, all right? So mental marathons, again, try not to do the most mentally so that you don't get burned out too early, okay? But I will get into all of that in a moment. Next, we have what I like to call limitless, and this is the full moon in Sagittarius. So again, Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter. It's all about expansion. It's all about discovering your limitations, perhaps, and most importantly, growth. And I will get into that a little later on. And then finally, we have what I like to call transformation station. I thought that sounded better when I made it up. That sounds kind of corny. Sorry. But yeah, transformation station. So we've got the sun and Venus, which are both going to be trine Pluto. Okay. So Pluto brings the heat. It brings the intensity. And we're going to feel this intense energy in two ways, right? With the sun, it's going to have a lot to do with our personality, our life force energy even. And then with Venus, it's going to be love, relationships, and money. It's going to be perhaps pressure. There's going to be intensity. There's going to be this weightiness to both of these issues and topics with both of these planets, namely the sun and Venus trining Pluto, but in a good way. In a good way, it allows for change of a profound and permanent nature. All right. So again, lots going on. So let's look at the week granularly and see exactly what we got going on. So today we've got the sun moving into Gemini and the moon moving into Scorpio. Thereafter on Wednesday, we've got sun trine Pluto. Thursday, as you can see, there's a lot happening. We have that full moon in Sagittarius. We've got Venus moving into Gemini. Then Venus will conjunct Jupiter. And then both Venus and Jupiter will sextile Neptune. Then on Saturday, we close out the week with Jupiter moving into Gemini, which is a major astrological event of 2024. Then we've got Venus trine Pluto, and we've got the moon moving into Capricorn. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right. So we start off with today. We've got the sun moving into Gemini, and we've got the moon moving into Scorpio. So you will see at the right-hand portion of the chart, the sun, which is the brown circle with the dot in the middle, that is at 0 degrees of Gemini. And then directly across the chart on the left-hand side, we've got the moon at 0 degrees of Scorpio. All right, so let's discuss. First and foremost, to all of my Geminis, whether you are a May Gemini or a June Gemini, happy birthday. Happy early birthday. It is your season. I know you guys are going to turn up, do the most, celebrate all damn month. I can't tell you how many monthly celebrations I've had to go to for Gemini, but that's besides the point. In any event, I wish you nothing but good health, wealth, joy, peace, love, abundance, and blessings in this new season of life for you. All right. So, sun in Gemini. I pretty much kind of summed it up in the intro, but the important thing to understand about the sun in Gemini is that it activates our mental activities. And everything begins in the mind. Thoughts become things. And with Gemini being the first air sign of the zodiac, we're at the beginning stages of creation, kind of. So we started off with Aries, where we have this passion, this drive, and this desire to just do, like to act and do and move forward. Then in Taurus season, we're like, all right, we're slowing down a little bit and we're realizing that we have work to put in. So we're getting to work. We're gathering the resources that we need in order to move forward. And now we're in Gemini season, where we're like, okay, we realize that number one, there's things to learn, right? Gemini has a lot to do with learning, specifically learning specific skills. So perhaps we're trying to build a home, right? Taurus, like we have the desire to build the home in Aries season. In Taurus season, we're like, all right, we got to get our tools. We got to get our hammer. We got to get our drywall. We got to get whatever, right? And then in Gemini season, we're like, okay, so why don't we like put a blueprint together? Why don't we learn the best type of materials to use for the foundation? Why don't we hire a contractor to help us build this house? Okay, it's all about communication and it's all about learning specific skills. Now, Gemini loves to do the most. That is the nature of Gemini. And so think of Gemini energy as like an ornery toddler, okay? This toddler just discovered how to walk. They just discovered, their hands and their feet, and they're excited about life. They want to touch everything, okay? They want to talk to everybody. They don't necessarily know how to form words yet, but they want to make sounds and they want to communicate with you. And they want to like pick their nose and then touch you. Or they want to come up and play with all of these things. They just want to be all over the place. That is exactly the essence of Gemini energy. And so it can be really fun. Gemini energy has a very youthful energy signature to it. Hence why I just gave you the analogy of a toddler, right? It's all over the place, learning through experience, but learning through communication, learning by talking to people. Gemini in Greek mythology is representative of Hermes, and Hermes was the messenger of the gods. So Hermes would go back and forth, not only just between the gods on Mount Olympus, but between Mount Olympus and the underworld, Hades, right? So Mercury, Hermes, I should say, all over the place. And this is how you're going to feel. It's this excitement. It's almost this electric kind of energy where it's like, I want to learn this. Let's talk to this person. Let's talk to that. It is no coincidence, at least here in the United States, in the Northern Hemisphere, that this time of the year, you've got prom, you've got graduations, you've got Father's Day, you've got all of these activities where you can be social and talk to people, right? And get together with people. So this is a very emblematic of Gemini season. But the question I want to pose to you is, what are you going to do with all of this energy, right? How are you going to put your mind to work during these next 4 weeks? What are you going to think about? Or maybe you're not going to think at all, especially if you're someone who's been in school and now you've just graduated. You probably don't want to do any more thinking. You feel like you've done enough thinking for a lifetime, right? But how are you going to use this energy? Intentionality is key here. Because again, you're going to have a little monkey with symbols all over the place trying to get your attention and have you easily distracted, right? It's about thinking with a purpose, thinking with a goal, thinking with an intention that you are going to carry throughout the rest of the zodiacal seasons, right? What I love about astrology the most is that it gives you the roadmap and the blueprint to what you should be doing and when. Now, we all have free will, right? That is undisputed. However, when you go with nature and you flow with nature, that's when things manifest in your life effortlessly and to your highest good, right? So, with that being said, I really want you to take the time between today and tomorrow, since we're at the very beginning of the season, and figure out, what do you want to learn? Now, again, Gemini is known for learning specific skills. So maybe you want to learn marketing. Maybe you want to learn how to cook something. Maybe whatever it is, right? This is the best time to actually do that. Okay. But keep in mind that, again, with the energy signature of Gemini, it's almost like you may start something and just not finish it. Or you may be interested and then all of a sudden your attention goes someplace else and you start learning something else. That's perfectly fine. Gemini is also a sign that is very curious. And so whatever strikes your fancy, whatever, curiosity you have at the moment, indulge it. Like, really research it. Talk to people about it. You don't have to go too in depth at this point. However, you definitely don't want to get your mind clouded with too many things, okay? Now, on the not so positive side of Gemini, it tends to be very fickle. And I sort of alluded to this just now, in the sense that you may start something and not finish, or you have an interest here and then an interest there. And before you know it, you've learned a little bit about a lot of stuff. And maybe it's not necessarily useful in that way to you. So you, again, want to be very discerning, and you want to try to focus as much as you can, even though your attention will sort of be pulled in a lot of different directions. But again, it's a wonderful time to not only learn new things, but to get your mind right about what it is that you want to achieve. Again, thoughts become things. So it's really important for you to remember that. All right. And then we also have the moon moving into Scorpio this evening, and that makes for a very intense time. Scorpio energy is very dark. And what's so funny is that I think it was one of my moon series videos where I think it was like the full moon in Scorpio, which was last month or something like that. And I talked about how Scorpio energy is very dark, and someone took such offense to it. They were like, oh my gosh, why would you even say that? And I'm like, Scorpio energy is dark, but dark does not equal evil. Dark is just the flip side of light. It's the shadow side, right? Anytime the moon is in Scorpio, things get very intense. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. It's also ruled by Mars, but it's ruled by Pluto. So that intensity, Scorpio will magnify things, particularly things that have been hidden, okay? Scorpio is also a truth seeker. No matter how ugly or dirty that truth is, Scorpio will find it out. And so when we have a waxing moon in Scorpio, which we do tonight and into Thursday, this is things being uncovered. This is understanding the uglier side of things, okay? Scorpio, I want you to get this in your mind. Scorpio equals shadow work. So whenever we have Scorpio energy, we're typically talking about the characteristics of that planet, right? The planet that happens to be in Scorpio. those characteristics that are hidden, or that sort of the flip side or the shadow side of that particular planet. And so with the moon being in Scorpio, we're talking about our emotions. So deeply seated emotions, that Pandora's box of emotions that you kind of locked away and really shoved real deep into your subconscious. It's like Pet Cemetery when the moon is in Scorpio. Things just start popping up, popping up. Oh my gosh, my abandonment issues, or oh my gosh, I'm codependent, right? Those are the kind of things that tend to pop up when the moon is in Scorpio, and it's not for no reason. It is to help you get rid of this energy. And by get rid, I really mean transmute. It's more so about recognizing what those emotions are, what those wounds are, what that emotional baggage is, and then use it to turn it into something positive and release it. Okay. So whenever the moon is in Scorpio, things tend to be, again, pretty intense, pretty heavy. And it's the best time for you to really examine how you are feeling. And you'll know how you're feeling because you will likely get triggered by something. The way this Scorpio energy works is that things that are so deeply seated usually need like an alarm clock to wake them up, or a trigger even to bring them up. All right. So if you find that that's what you're going through, don't shy away from that. I'll say you need to do two things. Number one, you need to feel whatever the feeling is. Whatever the feeling is, you need to feel it in its entirety. And then number two, you need to transmute it. Typically, Scorpio is great for shadow work because it shows you what's holding you back. It shows you your obstacles, right? Obstacles that you cannot see, that are typically hidden from you, right? And we're in the waxing phase of the moon. So we're talking about moving toward the completion of our goals. But a lot of times we tend to self-sabotage without even knowing it. That's because we have wounds, we have trauma, we have bad habits and things like that are running in the background, outside, not outside of our consciousness, but subconsciously. And then shit gets fucked up and you're like, but what did I do? I didn't even do anything deliberately. It's like, yeah, your wounds are playing out in real time. And that can, a lot of times, sabotage whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. So Scorpio gives the opportunity to sort of put on those gloves and really be prepared to get dirty, get really into it, and sort out your shit, basically, essentially, right? So that's today. Let's keep it moving. All right, so then we move to Wednesday, and on Wednesday, we've got the sun trine Pluto. So you will see the sun at 2 degrees of Gemini, and that's the upper right-hand portion of the chart. And then we've got Pluto at 2 degrees of Aquarius, okay, and that's at the bottom portion of the chart. So let's discuss. So Sun trine Pluto, essentially, it brings intense and profound experiences. Whenever you're talking about the sun, you're talking about illumination. You're talking about a revitalization. Like the sun energizes things, okay? And then you've got Pluto, which magnifies things. So things are becoming enlightened, energized, and magnified. Now, both the sun and Pluto are in air signs. The sun recently having moved into Gemini, and Pluto in Aquarius. So this is great for changing your mindset in a profound and permanent way. So I just went on and on about Gemini season and about how it's about your mental activity and being intentional, right? Well, this first transit right out the gate, this sun trine Pluto, allows you to do that. Now, Pluto is currently retrograde. And please, if you're not familiar with retrogrades and your only point of reference is Mercury retrograde, it's not like that. Mercury retrograde is its own kind of beast, right? But when you have retrogrades of the outer planets, and by the outer planets, I mean Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, these are planets that are super far away, right? You don't feel the retrogradiness of it because they're so far away. However, with a planet like Pluto that's all about intensity, this is about inwardly directed energy, specifically energy related to transformation. Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth. It is the phoenix rising from the ashes, okay? Now, it's interesting because what I love about being on this journey and what I love about when you are in alignment, what you need to know comes to you, and whatever topics are relevant at the time, you'll often find that you're bombarded with them, right? So lately, I have been bombarded with manifestation and being very intentional. I feel like I go through waves, right? Of course, I'm someone who knows that, we're all the God of our reality. We create everything. But if I'm being honest, I'm human and sometimes I forget. And sometimes I'm just like very much focused on what's going on and feeling a little powerless and feeling like I'm sort of at the behest of my circumstances. However, over the last, I want to say week, all of this information about manifestation and conscious creation has been coming to me. And this particular transit, Sun trine Pluto, is a perfect example of how you can set yourself up for conscious creation. Okay. So if you are also on a journey of discovering your own magic, discovering your own manifestation potential, this is a week where you are really going to want to be intentional about your thoughts. And what I love about Sun trine Pluto is that the sun in Gemini is all about your conscious mind, your ego, right? Your front-facing mind is what I like to call it, right? Everything that you can perceive and understand. Whereas Pluto in Aquarius, especially with Pluto being retrograde, it's all about your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind is attuned to improvement and innovation because Pluto is in Aquarius. So when you put all of that together, you have the perfect ability to get your conscious mind and your subconscious mind on the same page in order to make changes at the subconscious level so that you can move into the future and have that future be an improvement or an innovation on your present circumstances. Okay. I hope that didn't fly over your head because I have to be honest, that sounded beautiful coming out of my mouth. All right. So get your mind right. What is it that you want to change? Right? So the first question I asked you when I spoke about the sun in Gemini, it's like, what do you want to learn? What are you going to be intentional about? And now the second question I'm asking you with this particular transit, Sun trine Pluto, what do you want to change? And how do you want to wire your mind so that you can have a better experience? Now, I told you before about Scorpio energy, right? And how Scorpio can really help you understand where you're self-sabotaging, right? Because maybe you're holding on to wounds, trauma, things of that nature. Now, if you also remember, I also told you that Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. So with Pluto in Aquarius, that change, that profound and permanent change, is a result of you addressing your wounds or however you are standing in your own way, right? So let me give you an example. You want more money, right? Don't we all? And money is currency, right? Think of all of the water related examples or euphemisms we use to describe money. Cash flow, right? There's a river bank. Currency, right? It's got to flow. It's got to flow. Money in, money out, right? But let's say your money isn't coming in like that. There is a blockage in that flow. Sun trine Pluto can really have you consciously thinking about, okay, I want to make more money. And then subconsciously figuring out, well, what is blocking my cash flow? Is it my beliefs about money? Is it my lack mentality? Is it my lack of confidence in my skills or in myself? By examining that, that is how you can start to get your conscious mind and your subconscious mind for money. And isn't that a permanent and profound improvement in your current circumstances, right? That's an example of how this particular transit can play out. So again, you want to be intentional. And Pluto, shadow work, Pluto, Scorpio, you can all kind of group those together because that is how this energy is expressed, right? Pluto is going to have you doing some digging, right? Perhaps you have a lack mentality, to go back to my example. Well, where does that come from? Maybe you grew up in a household where you were always told, no, there isn't enough money for that. We can't afford that. Or perhaps you had parents who thought money was evil, like money is the root of all evil, or they were cheap, or they were stingy, right? So you grow up with this lack mentality. And because it's so conditioned and ingrained within you, you think it's normal. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, well, I can't afford that. No, that's too much money. Oh my gosh, that's so expensive. And you're wondering why money isn't flowing in and out because you have this subconscious conditioning that you don't have enough. That's the blockage. And then the question becomes, so now that you've identified that blockage, how do you work on it? You retrain your subconscious mind. You have to retrain your beliefs. What you've been just because you've been conditioned with something doesn't mean that it's true. Because trust and believe, there are plenty of people out there making bank, okay? Because they have an abundance mindset. So maybe they were conditioned with beliefs that money flows to me easily and frequently. I always have money. I can always afford what I want. So guess what? They do. So with this transit, there's work involved. It's not just about identifying the blockages. It's not just about being intentional about what it is that you want. It's doing that and then executing the work to eradicate those beliefs that are not serving you, right? You can't have permanent and profound change without getting dirty and without doing some work. So we are kicking off Gemini season with some deep work. We're reprogramming our subconscious minds to be wired to the things that we actually want. And this transit is not only going to allow us to work on the inside, but also work on the outside with that sun in Gemini. So you will be remiss. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that you need to take full advantage of this particular transit. And I mean it. I'm thinking that maybe I should do an impromptu live or maybe a video about this particular transit and what you can do to really make the most of it. So if you guys are interested in that, drop a comment in the chat if you are live. If you're watching this on the replay, drop a comment in the comment section if you think that would be helpful. But you don't want to miss out on this because it's literally like the universe is saying, I'm giving you the opportunity to change. I'm giving you the opportunity to have a better experience. But you have to be willing to do the work. All right. So hopefully that message finds who it needs to find. All right. Let's keep it moving. All right, so we get to Thursday. So on Thursday, we've got a lot going on. So first, we've got the full moon in Sagittarius. So the full moon is when the moon and the sun are opposite. So at the upper left-hand portion of the chart, you will see the sun at 2 degrees of Gemini. And at the very opposite end of the chart, you will see the moon at 2 degrees of Sagittarius, okay? Thereafter, we've got Venus moving into Gemini. And at the upper left-hand portion of the chart, you will see Venus at 29 degrees of Taurus. Well, when I cast this chart, the way it's set up, Venus couldn't move into Gemini yet, but Venus will be joining the sun at 0 degrees of Gemini. All right. Then that same day, Venus is conjunct Jupiter. Both of them are at 29 degrees of Taurus, again, at the left-hand portion of the chart. And then both Venus and Jupiter, as conjunct at 29 degrees of Taurus, they will both sextile Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces. All right. So this is a lot. I know I just breezed through that, but it'll make sense in a minute, I promise. All right. So full moon in Sagittarius. I have a dedicated video all about this. I'll be dropping it tomorrow, but suffice it to say, full moons illuminate. Okay. The moon is illuminated in the sky. All right. Okay. Let me read these comments. Someone said, very helpful. Yes, please, to change and have a little more control of one's life. Mel, I fully support your intuitions and astrological insight. Oh, thank you so much, Scorpio Muse. Thank you so much, guys. So yeah, I think I might do a little impromptu live about taking advantage of this energy. All right. Okay. So back to full moon in Sagittarius. So full moons illuminate. It's when the moon is completely lit in the sky. So full moons do one of two things. They either illuminate what's been hidden, or they signify the culmination of something sort of coming to an end, right? Or something coming to fruition. Now, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is a planet of expansion. I want you to think of the astrological symbol for Sagittarius. It's the arrow, right, going into the sky. That signifies expansion, right? It signifies growth. It signifies going from here upward, okay? And so this is going to be a full moon that's all about growth. Now, full moons, like I mentioned before, is when the sun and the moon are opposite. So think about a seesaw, right? You can have these very extreme energies and they're sort of battling for dominance, right? Everything about full moons is about finding balance. So with full moons illuminating things, right? Things coming to light, perhaps things that have been hidden. This may show you where in your life you've either been very limited or where you've been too much in outer space, right? And how you perhaps need to find a balance. Everything about Sagittarius is about growth. And when I think about growth, I think about personal development. Growth stretches you, right? It stretches you beyond your comfort zone. And typically this happens through experiences, right? Wisdom is gained through experience. And Sagittarius has a lot of this sort of wise, experiential kind of energy. And so I feel like this is going to be a full moon where you are seeing perhaps where you've limited yourself, perhaps where you've been stifled, perhaps where you've been too comfortable in your comfort zone, and where there is room for growth. Now, the thing with Sagittarius is that let's say you're on the other end of the spectrum, right? Let's say you've been all about expansion, all about growth. Sagittarius isn't necessarily about reining that in, right? Sagittarius just keeps wanting to go higher and higher and higher. Like think about a balloon that's being blown up, right? It gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger eventually until it perhaps pops, right? Sagittarius wants you to expand, wants you to be larger than life. And so maybe this full moon is going to show you perhaps where you've been larger than life. You're going to want to look at where Sagittarius is in your natal chart. This is where this is all going to go down. And this is where you're going to, this is the area of life where you're going to experience that sort of expansion. So it's very important that you pay attention to what is being shown to you. All right. Now, this full moon is happening at 2 degrees of Sagittarius. When we talk about the numerology of the number 2, we're talking about partnership. But this doesn't necessarily have to do with a relationship. This could just be something to which you are bound. Maybe it could be a contract. Maybe it could be some sort of a relationship, but not necessarily romantic. That's the point that I'm trying to make. The other sort of topic or concept that the number 2 invokes is choice. So perhaps you are at an impasse, right? And let's say you're being offered 2 things. Perfect example, and this just came to me. We're in graduation season, right? So let's say you're like a high school graduate, and you need to decide where you're going to go to college. Now, Sagittarius, as ruled by Jupiter, it really represents higher education, like college and above, okay? So you want to decide where you're going to college. Now, you have the opportunity to perhaps go to a state school or a community college that's not far. You can still stay at home. You can still enjoy the comforts of life that you've been accustomed to, right? After, being in high school for 4 years, you live with your parents perhaps or whatever, right? You're staying at home and you're going to school locally, or you've been offered you've been admitted to a large university that is clear across the country. Let's say you're in New York and you've gotten accepted to UCLA. Big difference between going to your local community college and going to UCLA. Not necessarily in terms of community college and university, but more so the distance, right? Being in your comfort zone on the one end and, moving across the country on the other. This is sort of the choice that you may be confronted with, or this is what you're going to be shown, or what's going to be illuminated to you at this full moon. Where can you move to? For some, depending on where this is going down in your chart, this could be a literal physical move. It could be a trip to someplace far. It could be college. It could be, upper graduate school or whatever. But you kind of see where you are, again, limited by your comfort zone and where there is room to grow. And you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you were just like, okay, I see where I have room to grow, but I'm not interested, or I'd rather that it's too far or it's too different. I don't necessarily. This full moon, especially if it's showing you how you've been limiting yourself, it's kind of going to give you a swift kick in the pants to get you to grow, to get you to expand, to get you to move out of that comfort zone. So for some, this full moon may be a little uncomfortable. It really may be urging you to do something that you don't feel prepared to do, that may take you away from the comforts that you're used to, or that may literally stretch you in an uncomfortable sort of way in order to get you to grow and develop. So pay attention to what shows up, or what choices, what options become available to you at this full moon. And if you have to make a choice, you're going to want to choose the one that feels uncomfortable for the most part, okay? Then we've got Venus moving into Gemini. Speaking of comfort. So Venus was just in her home sign of Taurus. And in Taurus, Venus loved comfort. She loved luxury. She was at home. She could be in her favorite sweats, watching Netflix, eating ice cream, being comfortable in her air-conditioned home, right? Enjoying all of the luxuries and amenities of home. And now she's moving into Gemini, and the energy signature of Venus is going to be very different. Venus rules relationships. And with Gemini being a sign that is not only ruled by Mercury, but also has a lot to do with communication, you'll find that when Venus is in Gemini, we tend to communicate with people more. Like I said before, it's no coincidence that this is the time of year when there's graduations, there's Father's Day, there's school trips, there's all of these things that have you communicating with people. Communication is really going to be a big thing. How you communicate with people. How do you relate to people? What can you learn from other people? That's going to be the essence of Venus in Gemini, all right? Now, Gemini is actually the opposite sign to Sagittarius. So I just went on and on about how Sagittarius is all about expansion and growth and the balloon just blowing up, right? Gemini, I want you to think of it this way. Being the opposite sign of Sagittarius, Gemini is the twins, right? Twins are identical. Gemini can often represent your immediate vicinity or what is homogenous. In the example I gave before, you know how I talked about you going to a local college or a local university that allows you to stay at home, that's like close to home. That's sort of the essence of Gemini energy also. It's your immediate vicinity. So when it comes to Venus and Gemini, there's a focus on the relationships that are in your immediate vicinity, whether it's neighbors, whether it's siblings, whether it's community members, like literally people who are right under your nose. I am someone, and I don't know why I just thought of this. So I am someone who, I don't want to say this to make myself sound bad, but I'm not exactly the friendliest of people, especially, when it comes to where I live. I'll say hi to neighbors, but I'm not one to make friends with neighbors. There have been places I've lived, I didn't even know who the hell my neighbors were, and I didn't care to know them either. I guess that's the Brooklyn in me, right? But the relationships that are right in your vicinity, that are right under your nose, may be highlighted when Venus is in Gemini. And with Venus ruling love and relationships, maybe there could be a focus on love and relationships in your immediate vicinity. Okay. Gemini also has the energy signature of friends and friendship, right? So perhaps friends and friendship are also going to be highlighted while Venus is in Gemini. Now, Gemini energy also has a lot to do with transactions, buying and selling. And with Venus ruling money, you may find that buying and selling, transacting business, hand to hand kind of business deals are also highlighted at this time. Even if they're not highlighted, you can tap into that energy a lot easier with Venus and Gemini. So definitely keep that in mind. Then finally, we've got Venus conjunct, well, let me not say finally, because we've got a lot going on Thursday. But then we've got Venus conjunct Jupiter, okay? Now, this happens right before Venus goes into Gemini. So Venus conjunct Jupiter is happening in Taurus. Now, I want to highlight something very important with Thursday. And you may be able to start feeling this energy already. So on that day and around that day, Venus, Jupiter, and Neptune are all going to be at 29 degrees. Venus and Jupiter will be at 29 degrees of Taurus, and Neptune is going to be at 29 degrees of Pisces. The 29th degree of any sign, when a planet is at the 29th degree, is known as the anaretic degree. And it's a very intense degree. It's a critical degree in astrology, meaning that the energy is very potent. Okay. Venus is in its home sign of Taurus. Neptune is in its home sign of Neptune is in its home sign of Pisces. And with all of these planets at 29 degrees, things are going to get intense. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos or if you've downloaded the Astrology Basics cheat sheet, which you should if you haven't, or you're just generally aware, Venus and Jupiter are two of the most positive planets. So with Venus conjunct Jupiter, meaning that they're at the same exact degree in the same exact sign, occupying the same space in the sky, you may be thinking, well, damn, Thursday is going to be a really, really positive day. And yes, it could be. So I do want you to put a gold star next to Thursday because some really positive shit could be popping off on Thursday. However, the phrase that I want you to keep in mind, there's two phrases that I want you to keep in mind for Thursday. Number one, too much of a good thing is not always a good thing. And number two, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Okay. Forewarned is forearmed. You can have a really positive experience, right? And with Taurus is an earth sign and it rules things like money and material things. This could be a positive situation on that front. So this could be more money, good news about money, good luck and good fortune with money. So that's great. But both Venus and Jupiter are going to be sextile to Neptune. Neptune makes things a little hazy, a little fantastical. So this is like someone offering you a wonderful investment opportunity that sounds absolutely amazing that might not pan out. It might be a little too good to be true. All right. However, I don't mean to rain on anybody's parade. Again, with Venus and Jupiter being the most positive planets, they're going to be conjunct in the sign of Taurus. it is going to likely be positive. So look at where Taurus is in your chart. You're also going to want to look at where Pisces is in your chart. This will let you know these are the areas of life where you can experience this positivity. Okay. But remember, also, too much of a good thing is not always a good thing. We all love some sort of candy, right? But if you have too much candy, not only do you get a tummy ache, but it rots your teeth. Those aren't good things, right? And they all stem from too much of what we consider to be good. So you're going to want to watch your spending and your eating. I'm not even kidding. Again, you may want to do the most. You may want to max out that credit card. You may want to go to that restaurant and drop $400. You may want to get that Gucci bag. Guess what? It's going to feel great in the moment. And next week, you're going to be eating water soup until you get your next check. Okay? Be mindful of your spending. These transits promote overconsumption, overindulgence. Just saying. Otherwise, it could be really positive. I don't want to be gloom and doom, but I got to let you guys know what the real deal is, because it's like being like in a candy store, right? It's like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Perfect example. And I feel like I gave this example not long ago, how I believe her name was Veruca Salt in the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And she was eating those, I think it was blueberry candies, and she just wouldn't stop. She just wouldn't stop. And she expanded like a balloon and she floated away, right? That is the essence of Venus conjunct Jupiter sextile to Neptune. So no one is saying don't indulge a little bit. Just don't go overboard, all right? Whether it has to do with food, whether it has to do with money, whether it has to do with shopping, anything like that. But otherwise, pretty positive day. And the other thing that I like about these transits, right? This Venus conjunct Jupiter and both Venus and Jupiter sextile to Neptune, you could have a really good experience in terms of something that you've dreamt about, a fantasy or imagination that actually you start to see come to fruition in a very positive and fortuitous sort of way. So maybe you're not dropping your entire paycheck on a Gucci bag. Maybe you're starting to see, like you're starting to make more money. Like let's say you have your own business and you're starting to see more clients coming in, right? That's also the way that this transit could play out. So I feel like, again, could be really positive, but again, too much of a good thing is not a good thing. And if it's too good to be true, it probably is. All right, let's keep it moving. All right, so finally we close out the week on Saturday with a major astrological event. First, we've got Jupiter moving into Gemini. And so you will see that at the right-hand portion of the chart, you'll see both the Sun, Venus, and Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. Then we've got Venus trine Pluto. Venus, again, at the upper, the mid portion, right-hand side of the chart at 2 degrees of Gemini. And you will see Pluto at the bottom of the chart at 1 degree of Aquarius. And then we have the moon moving into Capricorn. You'll see that at the left-hand portion of the chart. You'll see that the moon, at least when I cast the chart, was at 4 degrees of Capricorn. All right, so first and foremost, Jupiter entering Gemini. I did a whole dedicated video on this. I'll leave the link in the description box below for you to check it out. I also delineated by sign so you can figure out exactly how this transit is going to play out for you. Now, Jupiter changes signs every year. So it takes Jupiter 12 years to go through the entire zodiac. So since last year, around this time, Jupiter was in the sign of Taurus. So we were focused on material abundance, material resources. And now we are shifting to mental abundance. An abundance of communication. Remember, I said Jupiter is large and in charge. Jupiter is all about expansion. And so with Jupiter and Gemini, essentially we are expanding our minds. We're learning new things and we're being pushed past our mental limits. And I love this because it has a lot to do with manifestation. So not only do thoughts become things, but it's your imagination that creates your reality. And Jupiter in Gemini is really going to have you focusing perhaps on your imagination, or at least get you to think outside of the confines that you are used to. Now, this is great. It really is. However, it's also a bit uncomfortable. And that's something that I don't hear too many astrologers talk about, because typically the textbook sort of explanation of Jupiter is that, it's abundance, it's good luck, it's expansion, right? But we don't always talk about how expansion can hurt, right? Think about how when you eat a little too much, right? You are stuffed, and how your stomach expands, and how that food was so great as you were eating it, but now you're left with this fullness, this gassiness even, right? That's uncomfortable. And when we talk about Jupiter and Gemini, this could be information overload. This could be too many things to learn, too many curiosities to indulge in, too much mental activity. And I said this when I talked about the Sun in Gemini earlier, about how this could have your mind really, I won't say going crazy, but really on overdrive. And so it's really important that you use discernment and you prioritize, okay? Because you could be presented with a lot of different opportunities to expand your mind. That's the essence of Jupiter and Gemini, which is great, right? Not only are you expanding what you know, but you're gaining wisdom through experience. But this could also have you doing the most, going all over the place, and not really committing to learning anything. It's like jack of all trades, but master of none, right? And I know that there's more to that phrase, but I just can't remember it at the time. Right now, I mean. But it's jack of all trades, but master of none, which isn't a bad thing in itself, right? However, by the time that this transit is over, and Jupiter and Gemini will last until early June of 2025, you could be mentally exhausted, mentally fried, right? Especially if you're chasing every opportunity. It could have your mind like short circuiting. Or you can gain a lot of knowledge. You can gain a lot of wisdom by being discerning as to what you give your mental energy to. Okay, so it's really important that you remain present and discerning with all of this, with this plethora of opportunities, this plethora of things to learn. It could also heighten communication too. So this could be a year where you are really vocal, where you are really where you're writing a lot, where you're speaking a lot, like there's a lot. Whenever you think about Jupiter, just think of the phrase a lot, right? So just be mindful of that. And again, if you want to know more about Jupiter and Gemini, the video will be linked in the description box below. Then we've got Venus trine Pluto, and this brings intensity to money and love, essentially. The two things that most people want to know about, okay? It allows us to change the way that we think about relationships and money. Okay. Remember I said before when I was talking about the Sun trine Pluto, which is going down on Wednesday, right? You get your ego, your conscious mind on the same page with your subconscious mind. With Venus, you have the ability to do that sort of with your heart and with your wallet. Okay. Again, sort of reiterating the same energy signature of Sun trine Pluto, right? Where we are working on our wounds, our traumas, our obstacles, whatever is allowing us to self-sabotage. We can do the same thing as it pertains to love and money. So this can also be a little jarring, right? Because when we talk about love, when we talk about money, typically we're talking about wounds that cut very deeply. And recognizing and allowing those feelings to come up can be quite uncomfortable. However, it can be very much to your advantage if you are willing to do the work. Remember I said before, these Pluto transits, it's like you got to put your gloves on and prepare to get dirty, right? What do you believe about relationships? What do you believe about the opposite sex? What do you believe about yourself in terms of your self-esteem, your self-worth, maybe even your appearance? What are those beliefs? How do you feel about yourself? And then, like I mentioned before, what are your beliefs about money? Do you have a lack mentality? Do you think that money is evil, right? This transit allows you to eradicate those thoughts, to change them from the inside out. And now that I am going through this, right, I really do think that I'm going to do an impromptu thing about manifesting because it's going to be really important, particularly this week when we have the energy at our disposal. So I think I might do something tomorrow night. So check your emails. If you're on my email list, I will put something in the community tab so that we can discuss this tomorrow night. I'll probably go live. Okay. But yeah, this is about changing your love life and your money situation. And remember, I talked before about Pluto being in Aquarius and how we're making these changes to have a better experience in the future. So think about what you want your love life to look like. Think about what you want your money situation to be like, to feel like in the future. You're going to do the mental work. Keyword is mental. You're going to do the mental work this week to change that. All right. All right. And then finally, we close out the week with the moon in Capricorn. And when the moon is in Capricorn, we kind of get serious. We realize that there's still some work to do. We realize that we're not so far from the finish line. We got to get serious. We got to get organized, and we got to get structured and disciplined. Okay. So whatever it is that you're trying to manifest at this time, moon in Capricorn is going to help you get to work, set a schedule, be disciplined, and do what you need to do to cross that finish line. All right. So when the moon is in Capricorn, not the sexiest energy. It's actually quite serious. It could be kind of sobering because we become aware of our limitations. We become aware of our challenges. But in being aware of those things, we can work around them or work through them. So I love the juxtaposition of Venus trine Pluto with the moon in Capricorn. So I just talked about how we can figure out how we're messing up our money or how we're standing in our own way when it comes to our love life. And the moon in Capricorn is like, all right, let's get to work. Let's not renovate. I want to say rearrange. Let's rearrange some things in our life. Let's get things structured and organized so that we can take these new beliefs that we are working on, do the work that needs to be done so that we can have that better experience in the future when it comes to love and money. All right. So I know that this was a lot. There was a lot going on this week. I know that I either breezed through that information or I probably added a lot more words that I needed to. If you want to know more, I really think I'm going to talk about that manifestation. Going to go live tomorrow night. So tune in tomorrow night and we will discuss this in a little easier terms. Okay. All right. So now we get to the point in the broadcast where we get to messages from spirit. All right, so you know the deal. This is when I choose a card for each sign for messages for the week from spirit. I do this by sign. However, whether it is your sun sign, your moon sign, your Venus sign, Jupiter, North Node, doesn't matter. If it is your message, it's your message. And if it's not, then it's not. All right, so we begin with Aries. Let's see what we've got for Aries for this week. All right, Aries, we have the card entitled, hopefully you can see that, the Veil. Okay, this is associated with the moon, and in the tarot, this would be the High Priestess. So this is a week where you're going to need to follow your intuition, not your instincts. Okay. Instincts are like animal instincts. It's like your knee-jerk default reaction. Your intuition is your connection to your higher self. So this is about connecting to your higher self this week. This is about using your third eye to see. This may also be a week where you have very vivid dreams or where meditation would really serve you this week, as there are messages that you're not going to be able to get listening with your ears or looking with your physical eyes, right? This is, for you, Aries, this feels like a highly spiritual week, a week where you're asked to have faith in a higher power, and that higher power being your highest self. Okay. So it may have you feeling out of sorts because you just want to act on instinct or impulse, but this also may cause you to slow down a little bit and listen before you leap. Okay. So meditation will really be helpful for you this week. I don't know. That message felt a little disjointed. Like it felt, the word I'm hearing is like fractured. Like something is fractured, something is broken, something is disconnected. And it's like you really like, your impulse is to do this thing, and Spirit is like, no, Spirit is going to help guide you to reconnect this thing. Or perhaps for some of you, maybe you are feeling disconnected or disjointed. This is the week where you want to connect to your higher self so you can feel that connection and feel cohesive is the word I'm hearing. I don't know. Hopefully that message made sense, because it didn't necessarily sound like it made sense to me, but it is what it is. Next, we've got Taurus. Let's see what we've got for Taurus for this week. Okay, Taurus. We have the card entitled Chaos. Okay, and this is, what is this card? I'm not too sure what this card is in the tarot, but it's associated with Mars. All right, but I want you to look at the imagery, right? It's like opening Pandora's box. Taurus, this is very much giving me Moon and Scorpio vibes. Like, this may be a week, or at least the beginning the beginning portion of this week may feel exceptionally intense emotionally, because you're dealing with a lot of repressed emotions. Something has triggered you and has unlocked this Pandora's box. And it's time for you to address this chaos. It's time for you to address and eradicate whatever you've been keeping hidden. Okay. For some, this may be really jarring. For some of you, there may be a lot of fear involved. Like perhaps a lot of what you're seeing coming out of this chest here is fear or fear-based ideas. But it's really important that you address them, because you're at an important point where transformation is imminent. It's like you are so close to this transformation, to this phoenix moment. You just have to address these fear-based thoughts first, okay? Oh, you said this. Let me put this. You said this. The message for Aries resonates for you this week. I'm so glad. Very glad to hear that. Yeah, meditation will definitely be your best friend this week. Okay. Next up, we've got Gemini. Let's see what we've got for Gemini for this week. Gemini, you've got the card entitled Purification. This card is associated with Aquarius, and this is the star card. I'm hearing twinkle, twinkle, little star, or like wish upon a star. For some of you, there is a certain level of purification that needs to happen in order for your dream to be facilitated. And with this card being associated with Aquarius, I don't know if you could see that at the top there. It's all about your mentality. Your mentality about something needs to be cleaned up. It needs to be purified, right? I'm seeing like someone like burning a bridge. I don't know if you're like not literally burning a bridge, obviously, but like, you know how when you burn bridges with people, that's kind of what I'm getting. Like perhaps there is a group you've associated with, an ideology that you have adopted, or perhaps that you adhered to in the past that maybe is not serving you. And you're going to come to understand that this ideology or your association with this group really has been the obstacle between you having what you want. I feel like at some point you thought that this group, or the way that this group thinks, was the direct path to what you want. And you're going to realize this week, perhaps at the full moon in Sagittarius, that that's not necessarily the case. So it may be that you sever ties with this group, or whatever ideology this group adheres to. Maybe it no longer serves you, or doesn't fit for you anymore. It's not a good fit, and you're kind of burning that bridge. But in doing so, that's what's going to help you get closer to what it is that you actually want. All right. Next up, we've got Cancer. Let's see what we've got for Cancer for this week. All right, Cancer, we have the card entitled Pathways. This is the card associated with Gemini. This is the Lovers card. I'm not getting lovers, though. I'm getting the word choice. Inherent in the Lovers card is the concept of choice. It's like, what are you choosing? Like, you have options. You've got two things here. What is it? Which pathway are you going to take? You see that this is a labyrinth, right? And it's like there's clearly, there could be more than one way to get to the center. So what are you giving your mental energy to? What are you focused on? Whatever you're focused on determines the direction in which you will be headed. So it's almost like I'm getting this sense of confusion. Like, you're not quite sure which path to take. You're not quite sure which choice to make. Whatever you are presented with, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. There's this, I'm hearing the word practicality. I think whatever path, whatever choice you need to make right now should be a practical one. Something that makes a logical sense. I'm feeling like you may be presented with an option that, again, it sounds too good to be true, or it's like someone is blowing smoke up your ass, okay? That's not the pathway that you want to go. You want to use your consciousness, you want to use your brain, and you want to pick the path or the option that makes the most logical sense, okay? Next up, we've got Leo. Let's see what we've got for Leo for this week. All right, Leo, we've got the card entitled Fate. This is the card associated with the Wheel of Fortune in the Tarot, and it is associated with Jupiter. All right, so with Jupiter conjunct Venus in Taurus this week at that 29th degree, like I was talking about, there is a fated encounter of a very positive nature that you are going to be experiencing this week. So I want you to look at where Taurus is in your chart. And by fated encounter, you could be bumping into someone. Someone could be giving you something. I'm hearing like benefactor, getting a loan, getting approved. Someone who is helping you advance is going to be very important this week. And it is fated. It's this thing, this encounter, this transaction even, it's been orchestrated to happen perfectly, and there's nothing that you need to do. So if you've been wondering if something's going to go through, if you're going to get approved or whatever, like, the right person with the right information, with the right resources will find you this week, okay? You don't have to do anything. Just be yourself. Again, this is fated and it's very fortuitous. So congratulations. All right, next up, we've got Virgo. Let's see what we've got for Virgo for this week. Oops. Okay, not going to take that one. Virgo. Virgo, we've got the card entitled Memoirs. Okay, this is the Death card in Tarot, and this is associated with Scorpio. All right, so something is definitely changing. And I want to say, I think I got this card for you last week, Virgo. Transformation is afoot. Like, you are at the precipice of a transformation. You know how I was talking before about Venus, Jupiter, Neptune being at 29 degrees and that 29th degree being that critical degree? It's like right before the tipping point. It's intense and you are feeling the pressure, Virgo, but not in a way that makes you necessarily feel uncomfortable. It's like you're about to have a breakthrough, or you're about to have a complete turnover, complete turnaround when it comes to a particular thing, okay? This could involve a Scorpio, or this could just be that you've been doing a lot of inner work and now you're at the tipping point where some part of your life is really about to change. I'm feeling a lot with Venus, Jupiter in Taurus right? Like there could be a relation. This could have to do with a relationship. This could have to do with money even, or it could even have to do with like your self-worth and your self-esteem. But either way, a transformation is afoot, and it's going to come to a completion, a culmination very, very soon. I don't get the sense that it's going to be this week, but I feel like in the coming weeks, this transformation is going to be completed, and you are going to be absolutely amazed. Like if you see this card, it is a butterfly, or at least a rendition of a butterfly. And you are about to break out of the chrysalis as this newly formed butterfly. All right. So be patient. This last part of the transformation could be a little painful, could be a little crushing, right? Also could be liberating because you're now sprouting wings. And in the coming weeks, you are about to take flight. So enjoy it. There's a lot of change coming your way. Next up, we've got Libra. Let's see what we've got for Libra. Libra, you also have the Fate card. Again, this is the Wheel of Fortune, right? This is Jupiter. Jupiter is going to be conjunct your ruling planet Venus. So I want you to look at where Taurus is in your chart. This is going to be of importance to you because you will also be experiencing something that's fated and that is very fortuitous. I'm hearing it's about time, or it's your time. So perhaps you've been waiting for something for a really long time. Perhaps, you've been wondering, when is it my turn? I see everyone else. You know what I'm being shown right now? You know how, let's say, like you're going into a store and you go to open the door and you hold the door open, and then you've got like 20 people that pass by and you feel like you've been holding the door open forever. You're like, well, damn, there's so many people that keep coming and I'm holding the door open for them. When do I get to go in? When is it my turn? It's your turn. I feel like this week is going to be the week where something that you've wanted for a long time, something very happy, joyous, good news, fortuitous, could be money or whatever. Again, look at where Taurus is in your chart, but it's your time. It's your time, and it is finally time. All right, so enjoy it. Next up, we've got Scorpio. Let's see what we've got for Scorpio for this week. Scorpio, you've got two cards. You've got your card of Scorpio, Memoirs, okay, just like Virgo. And then we have this card entitled Life Purpose. And this is like the Chariot card, all right? So Scorpio, there is a transformation for you, but you are being moved forward. Or there could have been something that was stagnant for a while and it's finally moving forward. It could have to do with a Virgo also, or a Virgo could be instrumental in that. But there is this movement forward, and it feels like a bulldozer. It feels like a wrecking ball. And not to say that it's destroying anything. It's just the gravity of what this movement is quite heavy. It's quite intense, almost like a dump truck is what they're showing me. Like, it doesn't have to do with garbage. It doesn't have to do with anything negative. It's just a very intense movement forward. And this, I love that this card is entitled Life Purpose. So this could be like movement toward your life purpose. This could be movement toward your vocation, your soul's mission even. And with this card being the card of death, rebirth, and transformation, I feel like there has been a bunch of inner work that you've done, and you're finally emerging as this new person. And a lot of this will come to pass, or a lot of this will really come to the forefront as you start working in your life purpose. You see how this is like an arrow, a bow and arrow. Even it looks like it kind of has like a little heart on it. This could be a relationship also, if I'm being honest. Like, this is giving, it's giving like soulmate. It's giving like, all of that kind of shit. But I don't mean it like that, but that's kind of what it's giving. So movement forward, but there's also this heavy emphasis on your life purpose, what you are here to do, who you are meant to be. And that is going to start to become very clear to you, very evident this week. All right. It may be a little shocking because, again, they keep showing me a dump truck. And again, it doesn't have to do with garbage, but these are heavy trucks, like these big construction trucks. Like, you may be building something. This could be a project. This could be a building project. I don't know, but dump trucks, heavy shit. Okay. Next up, we've got Sagittarius. Let's see what we've got for Sagittarius. Okay, Sag, you got the same card, Life Purpose. Now, you don't have the whole dump truck heaviness that Scorpio has. This is just being immersed in your life purpose. It's also being a little defensive and protective of it. Some of you, I feel like you are gaining clarity on what it is that you're here to do, but you're not yet ready to share it with people. I feel like you're focused, you have the right trajectory, but you're kind of being a little hush hush about it. You're like, I don't want anyone to mess this up for me. Right? You know how when you are working on something, but you don't want people's input, you don't want their opinions. I feel like that's how you're feeling. So you're being a little defensive. Sorry. You're being a little defensive and protective over what you're doing or where you're going or what you're involved in. For some, I'm hearing like you have plans to, let's say, open a business, but you're not going to tell people until the doors are literally open, until your store is literally online, right? Like you're being a little secretive, but it's just to protect the energy of what it is that you're creating. And I see nothing wrong with that. So keep doing what you're doing, essentially. Next up, we've got Capricorn. Let's see what we've got for Capricorn for this week. Capricorn, we have the card that is represented by you. This is the card of Capricorn, and it's entitled Repressed Desires. Okay. Now, this is the card of the devil. Okay. And that's not a bad thing, but I love the imagery of this card, Repressed Desires, and this spider web. You are recapturing something that you've wanted to do in the past. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't time for it in the past. I'm hearing resources, like the resources weren't right at the time for this thing, but it didn't stop you from wanting it, right? It's like, let's say that you wanted to get a new car, and the car I'm being shown is like a fully loaded Mercedes-Benz SUV, right? Something real swanky, something real posh. Okay, we know how you Capricorns like to do. But the money wasn't right in the past. And you've been eyeing this car for so long. And finally, I think this is going to be your time. I feel like you are recapturing the resources that you need for this thing. So this could be you're getting money that's owed to you. You're finally approved for something. Like, pay attention to what happens towards the end of the week with Venus conjunct Jupiter, and both Venus and Jupiter sextile Neptune. I feel like the resources are going to be right to fulfill a desire or a dream that you've had in the past. All right. So congratulations. You really wanted this thing. You've worked hard for it, but I want to say that where these resources, they're not coming from your work. It's not like you get, extra money in your paycheck. I feel like this is a surprise, or it's unexpected resources. All right. So enjoy it. Next up, we've got Aquarius. Let's see what we've got for Aquarius for this week. Okay, Aquarius, we have the card entitled The Self. This is the Strength card. All right, Aquarius, you need to take a good, hard look at yourself this week. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? For some of you, it is your appearance that is coming into question this week, or a focus on your appearance or how you feel about yourself when you look at yourself, your beliefs about yourself. So this may be a very sort of self-centered week for you, and not necessarily in a bad way, but just really, I get a heavy focus on your appearance for some reason. Maybe you're wanting to do a new hairstyle, but it's deeper than that. It's not just superficially how you look. It's like how you look affects how you feel about yourself, or what you believe about yourself affects how you're looking this week. All right. So there's some inner work that needs to be done here, Aquarius. I feel like you need to sort of get in touch with your self-worth, your self-esteem, maybe even your appearance this week. But there's a big focus on you, yourself, and you this week. Okay. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, we've got Pisces. Let's see what we've got for Pisces for this week. All right, Pisces, you've got the memoirs card also. Again, this is the card of Scorpio, death and rebirth. Okay. Pisces, Scorpio, and Virgo may be instrumental in your life this week. You are also undergoing a change. It's like the message for Virgo, Scorpio, Pisces, very similar. Very, very, very similar. Actually, it's the same. Transformation. A transformation is afoot. Okay. But for Pisces, for you, there is some knowledge that needs to be gained, okay? In the sense that you're transforming into this new person, but you're not quite sure how to operate as this new person. Let me just give you the example that they are giving me. So in the original Matrix movie, remember how when Neo first gets out of the Matrix and he gets aboard the ship or whatever, and they put him in that chair and they put that thing in the back of his head, and he's able to download like every language. He learns Kung Fu in like 2 seconds. Like, that's what I'm getting for you. There's downloads that you're going to be getting, information that you're going to be getting that's going to be vital in this new chapter of life, this new persona, this new you. So be open to learning. And I feel like the full moon in Sagittarius is going to illuminate what these skills are. Definitely throughout Gemini season, there's going to be a lot of learning for you, but this learning is going to be used towards this new self. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, my loves, that concludes this edition of the Weekly Astro Forecast. I sincerely hope that you were able to get at least one important piece of information that you can use going into this week. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. Check your email, the community tab for when I am going live with that manifestation information. That will likely be tomorrow evening. And if not, I will see you next week. Take care, my loves.